Now, I just saw Avengers Endgame, and let me actually say, oh my gosh, oh man, I words cannot express how I am actually loving this movie, and I can't wait to do this review for you guys. Which the movie begins with Hawkeye, who's under house arrest, teaching her daughter how to shoot an arrow while having a picnic with his family, in which we actually seen his family being disintegrated because of the Thanos using the Infinity Stones, in which we seen Tony and Nebula actually keeping themselves occupied as they floating in space without food and water, and Tony have actually recorded a message for Pepper, in which we actually seen them being rescued by Carol, aka Captain Marvel, as we seen him headed back to Earth with the remaining Avengers, as we actually seen him go to the planet where Thanos actually is, as he actually is in there doing a little bit of gardening, in which he actually is injured on the left side of his face, in which we actually seen the Avengers head up to space and attack him as they going to find the Infinity Stones to reverse the process. But Thanos actually revealed that he actually destroyed the stones, in which he is actually not lying, and that actually caused Thor to cut his head off, in which, with no stones, they cannot actually reverse the process, at which they actually give up hope. Which we actually had 5 years late. I mean, 5 years later, where we seen everybody gone their separate ways, at which we seen Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, escape from the quantum realm from the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie from his truck, and then he actually escaped. Well, actually got out from a storage unit, but then we actually seen him going through the streets and then seeing the monuments of the people who vanished, and he actually thought that his family name was in there, but he actually found his own name, in which he actually trying to find his family, but what he actually found was his daughter Cassie, all grown up, in which we actually seen everybody actually talking about everyone going their separate ways, in which we actually seen Steve and, well, Captain America and Black Widow actually seen Scott actually came to tell them about how to reverse the process and get the stones, in which he actually explained that the quantum realm can actually allow time travel to actually be possible. In other words, he actually thinking about a time machine, in which they actually headed over to Tony to actually get his help, but he actually refused because he actually won't actually have a fear of losing his daughter Morgan, because he actually refused. And so they also asked Bruce for help, by which he actually have merged his intelligence with Hulk's body, in which he actually managed to keep that under control. So they can actually work on the way to perfect the time travel, and they actually have recruited some help, which Nebula, Rocket, and Rhodey for this mission. And also, Tony actually had perfected a way to do it. And also, Bruce and Rocket actually find Thor in Norway with Valkyrie. But Thor is actually overweight, actually, from what actually happened. And Romanoff actually recruited Clint for this mission, who actually became a vigilante named Roman, which he actually been killing crime bosses in Japan, in which they actually have knows the mission and got the details of each Infinity Stones, in which they actually have three teams for each mission. They actually succeed, which Bruce, Steve, Tony, and Scott head over to 2012, the first Avengers movie, to get the Space Stone, Mind Stone, and Time Stone. And Romanoff and Cliff are actually headed over to 2018 for the Soul Stone, and Rhodey and Nebula head over to 2014 for the Power Stone, in which they actually headed over. They actually had Thor and Rocket headed over to 2013 for the Reality Stone, in which they actually have their mission set. But they only have a limited supply of PIM particles they need to to apply, in which they actually have a return. They have their each return pods they actually use, in which they already successfully have the space. Well, actually, the Mind Stone, Time, Reality, Power, and Soul, in which where we actually seen Rhodey came back with a Power Stone. Nebula was actually captured by Thanos, which is actually the 2014 version, as we seen him actually capture her, and they actually knew that throughout the past self cannot actually interfere with the future self, which he's seen what Nebula actually seen. And Clint actually got the Soul Stone where they had to force to fight each other, in which Natasha actually had to sacrifice herself. And also, Thor and Rocket have successfully got the Reality Stone from Jean, and also Thor have got his original hammer back. And also, while getting the Time Stone, the Ancient One have warned Bruce they must return to your original place, otherwise it will create chaos, in which they actually failed to get the Space Stone when Loki actually escaped, which that actually could cause a alternate future. But Tony and Steve are headed over to 1970, where they actually learned that the Shield headquarters actually have the Tesseract, in which they actually headed over there with the last remaining PIM particles. And in 1970, we seen the cameo of Stan Lee, may he rest in peace, actually have found the army base, where they actually split up to find the Space Stone and the PIM particles, in which Tony actually met his father, Howard, and Steve have gotten the PIM particles, in which they actually headed back. And we actually seen Thanos have gotten the PIM particles for his army to head over to the future, in which Nebula had decided to disguise herself as the future Nebula, when we actually seen the other Avengers plan to use the stones to reverse the process, in which they actually have successfully did it, in which they have actually reversed the process. But also, Nebula from 2014 have actually sent the ship back to the future, in which we actually seen Thanos' ship destroying the headquarters, and that also meant that we could actually seen the battle that's going to happen. As we seen Clint have gotten the Infinity Gauntlet, we actually seen Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor battling Thanos, and we actually knew they are actually outnumbered. But all of a sudden, we actually seen sorry, Doctor Strange actually returned, and he also had brought back his fellow sorcerers, and also the remake, actually the new resurrected Avengers in the Guardians of the Galaxy and Asgard and Wakanda and the Ravishers, and oh man, I mean, let me actually say this. Pepper actually came with her own Iron Man armor as they going to fight Thanos' army, in which we seen Peter, Peter and Tony reunited as we seen them fighting Thanos' army. But they don't have a time machine, as we see Scott Van still has one, and which we seen Thanos have gotten the Infinity Gauntlet, but Tony is actually fighting Thanos. And when Thanos snapped his fingers, he realized that he doesn't have the Infinity Stones. But we seen Tony has, and he used the stones to disintegrate Thanos and his army. But the feedback energy of the Infinity Stones have actually killed him, in which everybody actually saw that happen, and we actually seen Tony's funeral where everybody have come together and see his the arc reactor from the first movie drifted away into the ocean as the Avengers have gone their separate ways, in which we seen everybody are happily reunited with their loved ones, and Thor have appointed Valkyrie as the new king of New Asgard, as he joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, while Peter, Peter Quill actually searching for the 2014 version of Gamora, in which Steve has decided to return the Infinity Stones to their rightful place, and including the Mjolnir, but he decided that he returned as an elderly man as he gave the shield to Sam, in which it revealed that he actually decided to stay in a timeline where he'd been reunited and actually marries Peggy Carter. And that's actually something that Steve have actually wanted to do. Now, I'm loving this movie and including and everybody in the movie, which the end credits we seen all the actors' names, including the original 6 Avengers, got in their own specialized end credits. And so there's no end credit scenes because this is actually the final Avengers movie. So yeah, I'm actually loving this movie. I actually stood up for the 3 hours they actually shown. So yeah, I actually love this movie. So anyway, like this video, subscribe for more, and comment on what you think about the final Avengers movie. You guys can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and like my Facebook page. Until then, this is Anime Guy 300 here saying sign out. Laters.